There's the traffic lights. They've been out. I didn't realize the security on the message called me on that. Well, this is in the evening. This is in the evening.
Yeah.
They were out. No, I had to call Ken. He actually put them on. I said, the lights are supposed to be on. Well, yeah, they should be, but they weren't. So again, even my
Yeah.
Then the councilors, there's a bunch of them.
Hello. How are you, dear?
Let me go back and get my book. Oh, you saved that for me?
Yeah. Come on, madam.
Well, that's where we ask the county, right? That should. You know what I mean?
How you doing?
You see my email back?
Yeah, I did. So they're working
Yeah,
on it. They just had to try to get in touch with the building owner to see what they're doing with it.
It's just sitting there.
Yeah, we turned it over. They might be having a dispute with the insurance
Oh,
company.
that's when we go after Ashley on the
We
county.
might not be able to get the nitty gritty of what's going on because it's kind of, we turned it over to them, but we're trying to dig into that, so, all right. No problem. How you doing? I'm good. Doing good? That's good.
We'll let Hogan go give them all.
Chief, I'm glad you were there Friday night after during the fireworks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that fiasco.
That could have gone pretty bad.
It would have been. I wish they would just get rid of that field.
Here we go. Good afternoon. Welcome to Public Safety Committee meeting and Finance, firefighters budget hearing. I'm joined by my colleague, Pat Hogan, Martin Nave, Sheeta Cardwell, and Jimmy Manto. First of all, I want to thank you, Chief, on all of our behalf of all the citizens of the city of Syracuse for your dedicated work and helping with the tragic situation in the past couple of weeks. We tried our best to buy a little time to make sure that you have the ample amount of time to grieve and be able to give enough space to the members of the fire department to grieve appropriately. But we have a deadline, unfortunately. We wanted to make sure that you had enough time, but this is all we could do. Again, we want to thank you, and we want to thank you for the work you have done and the work you continue to do, and our apologies and everything for what had happened. And we want to make sure that we stand in solidarity with you. Whatever you need, this body is here for you and your team.
Okay,
So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So take it away.
All right.
Yeah.
With me today, I have my fiscal officers and the rest of our command team and our executive staff that help us help our frontline firefighters protect our citizens. So if there's any questions with any of our different divisions with training, fire prevention, our maintenance division who oversees our buildings and our fleet, everybody's here today to answer any questions. I might be able to answer everything, but if there's anything, they're all here to make sure you guys get all the questions answered that you need. So I know there's nobody here that wasn't on the council last year, so I'll just kind of get into a few things. I think, and then I'll let you guys ask questions, but 2023 was our busiest year ever. We responded to 29,500 calls, which is like an 18% increase from the year before. Last year also, we responded to 83 major structure fires. Out of those approximately 30,000 alarms, we typically respond to 1,000 fires a year, which include vehicle fires, outdoor fires, those types of things. But the types of calls that really drain our resources are the structure fires. And those are the buildings that are on fire that we pull up, there's smoke, fire, and oftentimes, sometimes there's people trapped in there. And so we dedicate a lot of resources because of the standard that we live under. And those are the things that we're working on to make sure that we can still provide the level of service that we need. This year, we're already 500 alarms ahead of where we were last year, and last year was a record pace. So we're on pace this current year to go over 30,000 alarms. Like I said, we went to 83 major structure fires. This year, we're already at 32. We're on pace to go to 96 this year. So it's just a very, very busy year with our responses. We go to pretty much half of the alarms that get dispatched in the county to any fire department. So we are the fourth largest fire department in the state. Certainly the biggest anywhere between Rochester and New York City. And Yonkers has a pretty big fire department.
And not to change the subject, and you also received what this year?
The Fire Chief of the Year award,
Okay.
I received that. And that's based because of
Let's go.
the people that I work with.
That's right.
They help out with all the ideas that I have, the ideas that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can't thank them enough in the work that the firefighters do on the front line. So it's, it gets poised as a individual award, but certainly it's a team effort for awards like that. And one of the other awards we received this year was a Hank Boynton Award, and that, and like I said, we respond to 30,000 alarms. There's a lot of need for the emergency response, but on the backside, we do a lot of fire prevention, and our fire prevention teams, they received an award for the dedicated and really good fire prevention and fire education services that we provided in the city last year. So we received several awards last year that were pretty good and describes the work that we do. Currently, we have 70 firefighters that are dedicated to firefighting on duty. We have 368 budgeted positions. Right now, we have 5 vacancies, so we're at 363. We have probably between 5 to 7 or 8 more possibly going to retire before the end of this year. 90% of our sworn personnel.
Okay, before you get into the personnel,
Okay.
Chief, I got to ask you a question,
Yes.
right? So do you do what the police do? Because I'm looking at these false alarm calls. So when you go on so many false alarms and if they're duplicated, do we charge them a fee? What do we do? Nothing?
No, I mean, we've looked at having some type of fee schedule for responses to problematic buildings, but the first thing we do when we realize there's a problem with somebody's smoke detector or their fire alarm system, there's two things that are probably usually going on. One, there's a problem with the system, and then when our firefighters respond to a building that has an issue that we keep going to, our firefighters on the front lines, they write a memo to our fire prevention staff, and we follow up. And so if there's a mechanical problem or a problem with the system, we work with the building owner to fix that. But sometimes these false alarms are human intervention. Sometimes they're doing things wrong. Sometimes they're, they have them placed in the wrong places. Like some apartment buildings have smoke detectors outside of the bathrooms and steam lets them go. So there's a lot of different things. But right now, our first course of action is to help the building owner correct it. And but we haven't ever charged for those types of things. One of the things about charging for the false alarms is if, I think I've tried to put a fee schedule to everything we do, like since I've been the chief. One thing about charging for false alarms, there might be some people that would try to hide the fires, and then the fires would grow. So it could put them in bigger danger if they're worried about a fee, depending on what the alarm is, especially if it comes to a fire. So I think that's something that we could examine, especially with the commercial places and not the residential. That probably would be a good idea. Okay. So I'll just turn it over and let you guys ask any questions if you have any. Because I got a lot of information. I could talk for days. So.
Well, I would like to know, going over the budget, is there any concern that you have for the 2024-25 year?
I think I've talked about it in the past. Our on-duty personnel, just with the amount of alarms we're responding to, the different construction that's going on. At some point, it would be great to get to a point where we could increase staffing to help manage these calls, especially with the amount of structure fires we're responding to, and just being able to navigate, the 81 project and all the different construction projects, just making sure we have enough resources to cover everything. So that's my major concern. That's what keeps me up at night when there's fires. not only are we worried about what's going on at the fire, but what's left in the city to cover the rest of the calls that are still going on. And sometimes we get, it's really challenging to get down to 1 or 2 engines or a truck left in the city while we're dealing with a fire, or if there's multiple fires going on at one time. So that's really the biggest concern. We've been planning for years for the 81 project. You know, it's going to divide the city in half, and, you know, just, you know, being able to get up to the east side, you know, when the construction is in the middle of being done, and afterward, all the land that's going to be able to be developed. So just being able to protect that is really what we're trying to do. And I think, you know, we are doing things to help mitigate any hazards. We're doing more training, we're doing things for the firefighters to give them better skill sets to help them understand things. We're, you know, as you all know, there's a lot of plans for high-rise buildings that are going to be in the city, and it's just going to get more and more. So we're changing all of our deployment plan. We're going to change our procedures. Our training division just had an expert come in to like look at our archaic. Our response plans for our high-rise fires are so old, so we're doing training and we're going to update that. And at some point, you know, that's going to take funding and it's going to take extra staffing to be able to accommodate those types of needs that the city has. So that's kind of what we're focused on next year coming up.
Chief, let me ask you this. On page 193, I don't know if we're numbered the same. The contracted services related parties, it goes from 25,000 to 156. Why?
You said that's in 193?
Huh?
You said page 193?
Yes.
Okay.
Fire main civilians.
Okay. So that's gonna be, yep, that's gonna be, yep, I have the same book, thank you. So, you know, as you all know, I've been working with PSLA since I've been the chief 7 years ago when I started, and we've been trying to groom them to become firefighters. So this line is to actually, this will be the first year. We started when they were in 8th grade, and those 8th graders 4 or 5 years ago now are seniors, and people that graduate, we're going to try to give them an opportunity to become somewhat like CSOs, and hopefully we're looking at different types of work they can be able to assist us with. There's definitely needs in our fire prevention. I've been working with Chief Davis for like being supportive with the plan review, and like you all know, our plan reviews are constant with all the building permits that are coming, and even doing some type of community outreach, figuring out what they can do. There's not that many students graduating from this graduating class, but our 9th grade class this year has 24 students, so the goal is to get them through the next few years, but this is the first year. So that line is to add 3 of those graduates if they actually
For
graduate.
stipends or salaries?
Those are going to be salaries. They're going to be employees if they can meet all the minimum job requirements, and if they are desirable to want to do that, if they don't want to go to college or something like that. But the goal is to get them into firefighting uniform to be a sworn firefighter, but they got to still pass a sworn civil service test, and so there's other obstacles that they have in their way, but just to have a promise to them when they start this program in 8th grade that if you graduate, if you stay on track, there's going to possibly be some work for you to help us with in the fire department. That's what that budget line is for. So
Okay,
and we've never had that before. That's why it went
Before
up.
we move on, I do want to tell you, with all of your innovative ideas, you have done an incredible job of keeping your costs down every year. So I do want to applaud you on that. And we just got to keep the creativity rolling so you can keep bringing it down.
Yes, I understand.
Chief, how is the ambulance service going?
The ambulance service is going good. I think, you know, just like the private service, you know, we have firefighters that are paramedics that are running the ambulance. They're getting promoted. They're getting to the point where they're going from firefighters to lieutenants. So we're losing our staff to be able to man it the way we have our staff at the last year and a half. But working with AMR, they have done a good job of actually, you know, providing more responses into the city, and the calls that we are responding to now have actually decreased this year. So
We have 2 of our own and we're down 1? Or
no, we have 1. We only run 1 full-time ambulance.
and that one's down?
No, we have 3 ambulances.
Okay,
The one was in an accident a few weeks
Right,
ago.
okay.
So that is probably going to be total. So we have 2, but one of them is running all the time.
Was that the newest one?
No, that was actually the oldest one.
Chief Mons, I'm gonna say this is my personal thought and my personal experience with the fire department. I commend you as well as I see with the police. You guys are first responders, and you guys see so much first before anyone sees it. With the new 81 coming, you know, every day we're hearing about hotels going into apartments. We got Blueprint 15 coming up. Structures are changing. My concern is safety for people. Right now, we're number 1. I had to call you guys a week or 2 ago because I thought I smelled gas. And when I say the team was there like 2 minutes, like I couldn't even open my garage fast enough and they were pulling up, jumping. So I commend you guys for that, and I really appreciate it. But I'm worried that when everything gets to start transitioning, right, with everything being rebuilt, how are we going to maintain that number 1, right? The safety and making sure that people are safe, being that you guys are number 1, and as well as your firefighter. So I'm saying this to say, I think we need another fire station.
Well, you know, I've talked about it at length during the budget process. To the Madam President's point, we try to keep our costs down, and I think, you know, with our fiscal officers, with the budget department, we're pretty involved in making sure every dollar gets spent the right way, and that, for a lack of a better term, every dollar you get the
Try
right.
to get, nobody want to listen to me. All them developers up there, we ain't asking them apartments, make them pay for the station.
Yeah, we should. You guys are doing phenomenal. I just have to say that
Okay.
my experience itself, seeing that, and I believe people's safety is more important than things. So,
And I think you know, there's a lot of data. We can go through this budget book, but like, I think as a fire chief, as a council, as you know, whether the mayor and the senior staff and the budget director, I think as a fire chief, there's a lot of data, a lot of numbers that you can try to make work any way you want. But I think there's 2 key points that really, in my mind, it measures what type of fire department you really have. And, you know, that's people that die in fires and people that get injured in fires. And how are your deployment plans? How are your policies? How trained are your firefighters to help mitigate that? And, you know, I try not to talk about some of the statistics of, you know, our civilian fire death rates, which, you know, over the last few decades, definitely the last decade or so, we are 3 times the national average of civilians who die in fires. Just since the beginning of 2022 through 23 and the beginning of 24 this year, we had 104 firefighters that are injured. So, you know, we've talked about a new station. We've talked about adding firefighters. And I think, you know, with the money we got, we're doing everything on our end to train more, to come up with new policies like our high-rise procedures so we can operate as safe as possible with all the people on our command staff, trying to figure out how to make this better. I think at some point, you know, I brought up before, I do have a plan to expand our fire department, and with the amount of, you know, people that are getting injured, our firefighters and even the civilians, and with the deaths that have occurred over the last 12 or 13 years, I think there's only so much you can do with the firefighters that we have on duty. And it may not be this year, it may not be next year, it may be in a couple years, but at some point, the way the city is expected to grow and the way how busy we currently are, we have to take a hard look at that, because there's no more solutions. We're doing everything on our end. We're spending every dollar. We're making our dollars stretch to meet the needs of all of our support staff, to make sure our fire trucks are running, and not even to get into our capital projects, but, you know, the more alarms we're responding to, you know, over the past few, you know, since 2011 to 13, we have less companies that are on the front lines. And so our fire trucks are putting more miles on their, you know, they're wearing and tearing way more than they ever have. So there's a lot of issues going on with the growth, and we just got to make sure. I think everybody loves that the city's on the, you know, upward path to grow. We just want to make sure, as a fire chief and whoever comes after me, you just want to make sure our public safety ability matches the growth of the city. And when you're training 80,000 hours a year, like we did in 2022, and 70,000 in 2023, we've trained personally 70,000 hours in training. We've had different programs we've initiated in our department to I think I passed these out before, but we've given all of our firefighters, a pathway on how to be more skillful, how to be more trained, to actually be more, have more leadership skills when they go to these emergency calls. And this is for the firefighters, and we've had other programs that are for our mid-level supervisors that are their incident commanders on scene to give them more training. At some point, there's only, we're going to continue to train, and we're continue to come up with these innovative programs this program is a state leading program. We're leading the state in training for our firefighters. And at some point, when you're going to this amount of alarms and this many people, that we have hurt, I think we got to look at some things we're doing in the mirror and how we're deploying differently. So
What's your magic number?
I think initially we're looking at just opening up an engine company to support the engines that go suppress fires, and then I think as the city grows, there's definitely need for more, but I think initially it's engine company, 4 or 5 more people on duty so we can put another ladder truck downtown and have another engine company. So that would be the goal.
Chief, when you see the increase in major structure fires, are you able to pinpoint why that's happening?
We have all, our fire investigators, they investigate every fire per state law. It's a requirement for the fire chief to determine every fire. So some of them are human involvement. Some of them are electrical, cooking. So there's a lot of different reasons why fires happen, but, cities like Buffalo, Rochester, the urban cities with this many people condensed in such a small area, these are the type of numbers that just occur in a city of our size.
Deterioration of the housing stock and spots, too, I would assume.
Definitely that plays a part in it. We definitely, I know people want to talk about vacant fires. We have our share of vacant fires, but last year we had 83 fires. We had a little bit over 20 vacant fires, and those most of the time are homeless people getting out of the elements to stay warm. But there's no rhyme or reason to why. We know the days of the week fires are, and some years they're on Mondays, some years they're on Sundays. You can't really put a pinpoint of what exactly is the reason, but when you look at fire's been around since the world began, since people are on the earth, and it's just something that you have to have a plan to defend it against it. And our city's just in that same ballpark. I talk to the chief in Rochester, I talk to the chief in Buffalo pretty frequently, and we're all battling the same issues. They have more staffing on duty than we do. They have a bigger budget than we do. They go on a few more calls than we do. But overall, they have the same types of demographics and the same types of neighborhoods and the same types of firefighters fighting these fires and responding to the same alarms. So, we have the different causes of different fires, but historically, these fires are cooking fires, electrical fires. Some of them are incendiary, where people are starting them to keep warm and things like that. But nothing that we can say, this is why there's a trend.
I think to what President Hudson said, it's just logic says if we turn 287 hotel rooms into 287 apartments with kitchens.
Yep. And we had a fire there a couple of weeks ago, and those are labor-intensive, resource-draining fires. And that particular fire, most of our on-duty resources were at that fire. And then when a 911 call comes in, we don't have that many resources to respond while that is going on. So we call in firefighters off duty to come in when we get to that point. But this is happening more and more. And with the amount of alarms that we're responding to, like I said, we're going on more alarms than ever. We have the least amount of resources on duty than we've had in a very long time. And so, we're kind of going in different directions in some of those data sets. And yeah, we're just waiting. I think before we had a committee meeting about on-duty staffing, I have a plan. I think we had to figure out how to pay for it and when the timing is right. Right now, for me, the timing is always the right time to like improve on this, just because of how busy we are right now and with the projected projects that are going on, like the Syracuse Developmental Center, the Inner Harbor is going to grow, Syracuse University is going to grow. You know, you look at all these hotels that are one-night occupancies or two-night occupancies. Those are going to be people living there all the time. And, you know, over on Wolf Street, you know, there was an article in the paper, you know, we're trying to get more housing. And it's a good thing to have people housed, but we got to be able to protect it. And the big key to that I just want you guys to know, when we're so busy, what ends up happening is our Engine 1, right, it's on State and Adams. You know, in 2013, when Engine 7 closed and Engine 6 closed, they became one engine company. They're going on like 6,600 calls a year, which is one of the busiest engine companies in all of the United States. So they're constantly busy. They're constantly on calls. And then when a fire comes in, whether it's that company or another one, you know, we have a really good response times for the first few people that get there. But in order to actually mitigate the hazard, you need more than 4 people. And that's why we have been so good over the years, is we're able to put a lot of firefighters on scene and we can deploy them to extinguish a fire, force our way into the buildings, initiate rescue attempts when we have the ability to have the manpower on duty to do these things. And with our call volume, we're constantly on different calls, so you don't know who's coming where. Even we're trying to come up with a new policy for our high-rise procedure, and you know, some of the industry standards are the first 2 responding units that get on scene, they combine and they take one hose line in, and that's something that we've never done. And I want to do that because it's one of the things when these fires are so labor intensive. If you have to get to the 19th or 20th floor like we did in Crown Plaza, instead of trying to deploy 2 lines like our policies have said all the time, you put 2 companies on one line. But the worry that I've talked to my team about is, because we're so busy, if everybody's in the station and nobody's on any calls, the plan works great because the closest people are going to come, but you don't know who's going to be out because they're already responding to calls because of how busy we are. So
Chief,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm positive.
I want to go back to page 192. The fire
192?
192. I think is last year you had 19 position, and this year you have proposed 20. Was that is you couldn't hire last year for this, or is this new?
This is going to be, we're adding an additional mechanic to the point where I was saying how many alarms we're responding to. Our mechanics are constantly behind the 8 ball and fixing our apparatus when it goes down, and just doing preventive maintenance to make sure that the apparatus that they're responding on is safe and efficient, and it's safe for them to respond on. So we asked for another mechanic to help with the workload.
Chief, I don't think, I mean, I know this is the budget hearing, but I don't think people realize all the things that the firefighters do. So not only do you guys come to fire rescues, you guys come to car accidents.
Yep.
You guys come to tell them about ambulances when they can't get people out. You guys are picking them up.
So
They
we,
do rescues.
They do
Yep.
rescues.
So
you know?
we do a bunch of different things. You know, we do our ambulance calls, and you know, everybody looks at the fire department like we just put fires out, but our firefighters that also put fires out, they also respond to medical calls without an ambulance. And so they're the first responders to stabilize a patient, to get there to assess what's going on. And then usually a private ambulance company comes behind us and we pass that patient off to the private ambulance company. Last year we went to 15,000 of those types of calls where they're just medical calls. We have a hazmat response company, which they also cross-serve as firefighters on an engine company and a ladder company, but when there's a hazardous materials call, our engine and truck go out of service and they become our hazmat team, and they are the county hazmat team. You know, they respond to all different types of things. They're specially trained to go to any type of dangerous good, combustible substances, explosives, any type of corrosive liquids, any cargo that comes through on trains and tractor trailers, you know, as we talk about Micron coming in, and, you know, these tractor trailers or however they're going to transport all these chemicals, when something goes bad with that, our firefighters over on Geddes Street, they are gonna, go out of service and get into their hazmat call, and we're gonna be dealing with those, any type of hazardous materials calls in the city and in the county. And we also respond to two other counties, Madison and Oswego, when necessary. We also have a rescue company that does technical rescue, which, they deal with confined space, high and low rope. If someone's stuck on a window washers on a high-rise building, if they're stuck, we go and get them off. They do trench rescue, water rescue, swift water rescue. So all the different things, like you said, we do them. And those are just our frontline firefighters that are doing all that with our vehicle accidents that we go to. And we also support the police in a lot of different things they do, like active shooter situations. We train on that all the time. If there's any crowd control situations, we help the police address those issues. With all that that we do on the front lines, we also have our support staff who, are in charge of our maintenance division. We're in charge of 13 buildings, which our fire stations are over 50 years old. They have over 110 fire trucks and light fleet that they need to maintain. Our fire prevention bureau, they do all the inspections. They respond to fires and make sure that, after the fire, whatever happens with that building becomes code compliant as soon as we can. They're doing all the fire education things. After the fires, we put a program in last year that after every major structure fire, we have handouts that we go into the neighborhood where the fires are at, and our fire prevention staff is doing a ton of work. That's why they won the award for all the education and fire prevention that they're doing. So,
I don't want to keep you guys here longer than we need to, Chief.
Any more questions?
I want to go to 190.
Okay.
The EMS training expenditure is all zero. Is there another line that is incorporated into it, or it just? I would assume that with the EMS with
what line is that again, Council?
that is 190, Chief, and it is 542100 EMS training expenditures.
The restricted funds.
Could you?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Maria Vigilati. The EMS reimbursement account, currently it goes in, we apply for reimbursements with New York State, and it's restricted funds. The way finance has it set up right now, it doesn't roll in a sense. So we have a balance, but it isn't budgeted for at the beginning of the budget year. But we're trying to change that so that it's done differently. So you can always see how much.
Maria, where does it go? Does it go to the general fund? Where does it go?
No, it's in a revenue account, but it's not budgeted for currently. So those funds are restricted for only EMS
Training
for training
situations.
purposes
Yeah.
and things. So we're working with finance to get that set up so that it's more reflective of what the balance
That
really
gives
is.
us an idea of how many EMS we're going to actually be able to work with.
Well, so what happens is we front the money. So, this particular line is a reimbursement line. So the work that we're doing that will fall under this line, we just pay out of our budget, and then we submit basically receipts to the state, and then they reimburse us. So
For how many?
I have that information. I just don't have it with me right now. But I have all of our overtime itemized out. I don't think I can tell you what historically. I can tell you historically what that number is. I just have to get that number.
That's fine, Chief, because we're going to ask you stuff you didn't prepare for anyway.
No,
so.
I got all the information right here. I just need like 2 seconds. I got that for you, Madam President.
Hogan, you had a question?
Yes. Hold on, go on. Chief, first, I do want to thank you and Chief Davis for the time you spent coming to Dale Street Neighborhood Watch, educate our citizens about fires. I want to thank you for that, and that's, a lot of people don't know that what you do on your own time.
Yes.
Coming to Neighborhood Watch Group's meeting, you're always willing to come. I've been to Firehouse too, and when I go in there, I notice it's getting antiquated. And the area when it was built, I really see the space is short, and we're expanding. And the north side has had more than its share of structural fires. We've talked about it this year, and also now with the carriage loss. Can we see in our budget, maybe in a year or two, where you're going to come for the council and say, I'm going to have to get a new firehouse or do structural renovations, not just on two, but others?
Yeah, I think, and I have Chief Smith here who works closely with me on, we've been analyzing our fire stations and and thanks to the council and senior staff in the mayor's office, we have been getting capital improvement money to like remodel fire kitchens and, there's windows and roofs. There's like, we're like landlords for a building that's occupied 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And, not to speak about what happened before I was a chief, but there wasn't a lot of investment into these fire stations. Certainly there isn't in our program right now a fire station replacement program. We have just been getting capital improvement to replace the garage doors that, they're constantly going up and down and respond out of, to put energy efficient windows in place. One of the projects that, that we're looking at doing is our alerting system, which is a major project. I have a legislative item to come to council, and that particular piece of this project is what the 911 system, when it calls our firefighters and alerts them. This system is as old as some of our fire stations, and so everything in our fire stations has been over 50 years old, and we've been doing a good job over the last 5 or 6 years of, putting out the fires, for a lack of a better term, of, just making it more comfortable for the firefighters to be in. But this alerting system and these other components of our fire stations, they haven't been addressed in years, and we've been doing a little bit.
For those?
Can you say that again?
Are there any grants for those?
No, I mean, when we put in for a grant, there are priorities that usually the money goes to, and this hasn't really fell into that situation, but we have an estimate for what needs to be done, and I wasn't sure how you wanted to address that particular project. Should I just submit the legislation back to the council and talk about it at the study session?
Let's
Okay.
talk about it offline.
Okay.
Speaking of grants, how do we have any position that are falling off from the grant funded into
No.
this year? Okay.
No, we've since I've been the chief, we've had over $5 million in grant funding to pay for things like training, overtime, some salaries, equipment. So we constantly are working to get grant money. So
Other questions?
I have just a statement to say,
Okay.
and I have to be very transparent. I've spoken it before. I believe people over things. I believe, we got to make sure that we're proactive, right? And you guys are doing a phenomenal job. And I have a big concern, and I'm going to say it again because I know people are listening, that we have to be prepared for what's going on. And I was in, everybody know I lost my son. And at that time, the fire department wasn't the first responders at that moment of time. So I waited 20 to 25 minutes. I would hate for anybody, catastrophe to happen, and somebody has to wait 20 to 25 minutes to get, support and help. So I hope we can find ways to make sure that we can get another firehouse, because we want to make sure our citizens are protected, but also the firefighters, because the longer, things happen, it puts you guys more in danger. So I'm just speaking that out, and hopefully us council and the mayor's office, we can find ways to get more money for another firehouse. Thank you.
thank you.
Councilor
Other
Hogan, you had
question
a
or
question?
comments?
No, I agree with everybody, and we talked to this before. In fact, I had a long history at the fire department, and I remember when the firehouse was closed up there. And, we have to thread a needle here, obviously. We expect a lot of people to move into the area, but we have a lack of housing. Most housing, as far as it's being built right now, and with the costs involved in housing, is you can't get housing built unless there's certain benefits by the government, city government, state government, whatever. As far as building a firehouse goes, we're all in on that. I mean, obviously we could bond for that, but it's the 20 firefighters that you need, probably 15 firefighters you need, and that would be a budget item that would be year after year after year, 1.7 to $1 million, and you know, all I can say is nobody thought we could get that training center built either, and that happened.
Yes.
So I think, you know, we admire what you do. We're all in favor of the fire department. And we'll, you know, I think all of us, we're going to work to see if we get a firehouse up there.
Okay.
But we got to, you know, this isn't easy. There used to be a guy in the city audit office who would say there's no magic pills here.
Yep. And
You
I
know,
understand.
You know, we have to like work together in order to find a way to do it as far as monies go. And in a city where 54% of the total assessed value of the city's tax exempt, it's a really difficult task sometimes. So.
And you're
Yes.
right, Counselor, but when I look at that whole little area where 7 was, right?
Right.
That out there is just been building and building and building, and there's only one station up there.
Right.
So, I mean, the capacity to be able to respond, if there, I'm
you're
not gonna go
absolutely
on
right.
and
We
on,
all know- we all
because
know
we
that.
all know that we need that station, and we just have to figure out a way to get it.
Gotta make it happen.
Other questions, comments?
Well, I appreciate everybody's support. Since I've been the fire chief, the council's been great working with the fire department and the senior staff. We try to identify things in a cost-effective manner to like have our little wins, but I appreciate the support that I've received and our department's received. Thank you.
You know, Chief, I think sometimes you and Chief Cecil should get together and total up all the phone calls you get from the city councilors. Because
Yes.
both of you always respond.
Yep.
And that is like a rarity in my history.
Because he's a Nottingham graduate,
Yeah, 'cause they
that's
come
why.
say.
I actually love what you guys call. I love that. Call me anytime.
Special from Hogan too?
Everybody, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Okay.
All right, that will do it for us. A motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you. Have a good day.